Hello my amazing viewers, you are simply the best. Thank you so much for all your love, support and encouragement so far. I truly appreciate every comment, every like and everyone who has subscribed. Today's video is specially for you because some of you asked me to share the tutorial on how I cut and attached the skirt part of this beautiful dress, and as always, your wish is my command. If you haven't seen the first part of this tutorial where I shared the full cutting and stitching process of the upper bodice, please make sure to check it out first. It will help everything make more sense. So if you're ready, let's dive right into the cutting process. And if you are just joining us or haven't subscribed yet, please do. I would love to have you as part of this sewing family. In this session, I will not only show you how I cut the skirt for this particular design, but I will also walk you through how to cut different types of circle skirts like 180 degrees, 360, 720 and even 1440 flares. We will use the waist circumference of 22 inches, skirt length of 14 inches and lining length of 11 inches. For better understanding, I will start by cutting the lining first. I'm using a 180 degree circle flare, also known as a half circle skirt for this part. Now, the standard formula for calculating the radius of a 180 degree circle flare, whether for adults or children, is waist circumference divided by 3.14. Now I'm going to add 2 inches zipper allowance to my 22 inches waist circumference, which gives me a total of 24 inches. I will then divide that by 3.14 and the result is approximately 7.64, but I will round it up to 8 inches just to give the dress a little extra room. This way, if the baby grows and I ever need to adjust the side seam of the bodice, it will be much easier. Next, I will get my fabric and fold it into two. I will measure 8 inches plus 11 inches for my lining length and extra 3 inches just to avoid fabric shortage and to include seam allowance. That will give me a total of 22 inches to work with. The extra 3 inches includes half an inch for joining at the waistline and 1 to 1.5 inches for hemming the lower part. This is totally optional and you can adjust it based on your design. After folding the fabric into two, I'll fold it again from the folded part, just like you see me do on the screen, to get a triangle-like shape. From the pointed edge, I will place my tape and measure 8 inches radius, marking it in a curve. After that, from the 8 inches curve, I will now measure 13 inches downwards. That's my lining length plus the seam allowance I mentioned earlier. I will go ahead and mark that curve as well. Once I've drawn both curves, the waistline and the hem, I will carefully cut along the lines, and that's it. That's how to cut a half circle lining using the 180 degree method. Now let's move on to cutting the main skirt part of our dress. For this skirt, I used a 960 degree flare. Let me quickly explain how the different circle flares work so it's easier for you to understand how to calculate them. For a 360 degree flare, simply divide your waist circumference by 6.28. For a 720 degree flare, you will first multiply your waist by 2, then divide the result by 6.28. Then for 960 degrees, multiply your waist by 3 and then divide by 6.28. And for 1440 degrees, multiply by 4, then divide by 6.28 and so on. The more you multiply your waist before dividing, the fuller the flare becomes. In my case, I want to use 960 degree flare, so I multiply my waist 22 inches by 3, which gives me 66, and when I divide 66 by 6.28, I get approximately 10.5 inches. But because I'm working with limited fabric, I adjusted it and used 8 inches as my radius instead. Next, I added 8 inches for the radius, 14 inches for the skirt length, plus 1 inch seam allowance, half an inch for joining it to the bodice, and the other half for finishing the hem with bias tape. So in total, I need 23 inches for my measurement. If I were going to hem the bottom instead of using bias tape, I would recommend adding 2 or 2.5 inches for proper hemming allowance. To know how much fabric I needed to cut this, I multiplied the total measurement, which is 23 inches by 2, giving me 46 inches. That means I needed a fabric piece that is 46 by 46 inches. That is 46 inches width and 46 inches length, a perfect square. Next, I folded the fabric first into 2, then folded again to make a square fold, just like you see me do on the screen. I placed the folded fabric in front of me with the pointed edge at the corner where both sides are folded, the sides that are not open. From that pointed corner, I marked 8 inches all around. This is my radius. From the 8-inch curve, I measured down 15 inches. That includes my skirt length, my half-inch seam allowance for joining at the waist, and my half-inch for hemming or finishing. I carefully marked the curve and then cut it out. And that's how to cut a 960-degree circle skirt, flowy and beautiful. The same way I folded my 960-degree circle is the way you are going to fold your 360, 720, 960 and so on. After cutting out the skirt, the next step is to pleat the waistline and finish the hem with bias tape. I didn't record this part originally because it seemed quite simple, but for the sake of beginners, I will quickly explain how I did it. To start with the hem, I placed my bias tape right side facing the wrong side of my skirt. I stitched it all the way around the hemline. After stitching, I flipped the bias over to the right side of the skirt and top stitched neatly on it. Take your time when working on this part. It can be a bit tricky because a circle hem takes time and patience. Don't worry if it doesn't look perfect at first. And if you're enjoying this tutorial so far, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It means a lot and helps me grow this channel. Sometimes you may need to form a tiny pleat on the bias tape to help it follow the curve of the skirt. This happens because the bias is cut straight while the hem is curved, so they don't always match up easily, but with a little care you will get it right. Now let's talk about pleating the waistline. I notched the center of the waistline. Still folded, I measured 2 inches inward and notched. From those points, I folded my pleat inward so they meet neatly at the center. And I pinned them in place. After pleating the center, I continued forming small pleats on both sides, but I was careful not to over-pleat. I made sure that what was left of the skirt still matched the body's waistline, including space for the zipper allowance. Remember, my waist measurement is 22 inches and I added 1 inch zipper allowance on both sides, making a total of 24 inches. So while pleating, I made sure the left side from the center notch to the edge measured 12 inches and the right side from the center to the other edge also measured 12 inches. This way, the skirt will fit perfectly to the bodice. I will continue by joining the 3 pieces of net together. Each piece was about 10 inches long and 3 yards wide. After joining all the 3 pieces of net together, I divided them into 2 equal parts so I could pleat them onto the skirt in 2 layers. You can always add more layers if you want your dress to look fuller. Once the net was ready, I pleated it directly onto the waistline of the skirt, spreading it out evenly. Now it's time to attach the bodice to the skirt. I took my upper bodice and placed it right side facing the skirt, making sure the midpoint of the skirt matched the midpoint of the bodice. I started pinning from one zipper allowance, just the main fabric, not the lining. When I got to the side seam, I opened the seam allowances on both the main fabric and the lining and matched them carefully. At the back, the lining and the main fabric were pinned separately, but on the front they were pinned together. I repeated this same step on the other side of the zipper. Next, I pinned the lining separately. I took the hemmed lining and matched the center to the bodice lining, placing them right side together, and started pinning from the zipper on one side, then the other, and stitched everything on my sewing machine. Now it's time to secure the skirt and lining neatly. I marked 4 inches down from the waistline on the main skirt, then stitched the main fabric and net layers together from that point down to the hem. I did the same thing on the lining, marking 4 inches and stitching it down to keep everything neat and secure. After that, I pinned the remaining zipper area of the main fabric together and stitched it. Then I did the same for the lining, stitching it separately from the main fabric to give it a clean finish. And now our dress is neatly finished. Don't forget to give it a good press with your iron. It's very important for that professional look. This was how I originally planned the dress to look, but later I decided to add a belt and a bow tie for a different style. Let me know in the comments, which version do you prefer? The one with the belt and bow tie, or the one without? And if you found this tutorial helpful, kindly give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more elegant sewing ideas. Let me quickly show you how I attached the belt and bow. I cut a 90-inch length of bias tape, folded it into 2 and stitched it down on the open edges. I folded the 2 open edges inward, then stitched so that both sides of the belt look neat. That way, the belt has no front or back. It looks the same on both sides. I found the midpoint of the belt, pinned it to the dress and stitched it from one side of the front to the other, sewing along both the top and bottom edges. For the bow tie, I cut a small piece of fabric and ironed hard gum stay on the wrong side. I stitched around the edges, leaving a small opening. Then I turned it inside out, gave it a good press, and made a tiny pleat in the center, which I secured tightly with thread. To attach it to the dress, I used a press button so the bow can easily be removed or adjusted. If you would like a separate tutorial for how I made and attached the belt and bow tie, please let me know in the comments. And that brings us to the end of this beautiful ball dress tutorial. I really hope you found it helpful and enjoyable. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, stay creative, stay inspired, and keep sewing pretty with gifts. Bye for now.